Happy Wednesday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Lauren Jabari here with Jared Smith. Jared, we had no NFL yesterday. We did break it down, though. A lot of different announcements being made. Now we move on to week 11 of college football, week 10 of NFL, officially halfway through the NFL season. How was your day yesterday? Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, Taco Tuesday. I had a really nice just evening in. I watched some of the election results. So the election night's the only night that I actually turn on the news. It's the only night of the year. Don't really care about the results. Don't want to get into that. But I did have a fun little home date with me and the dog. And I'm such a nerd. I can't believe I'm actually showing you this. I built a Lego X-Wing last night. There it is.
Oh, cool.
So, that was fun.
Really cool.
I know. If you want pictures of how it got assembled, go to my Instagram. You can check out the story. And we won a Maction bet. So it wasn't a bad night. A little election night, little Lego nerdery, and, some winning Maction. So not too shabby. How about yourself?
I love it. We all need a night in like that. A little wine, little Lego. Why not?
There you go.
Love to see it. Okay, we got a lot. We have a lot to break down today. First of all, NFL midweek line moves, a few significant moves that we're seeing. We'll break that down for you. NFL with Arthur Arkush. We're having him on in a little bit. He's a betting expert for PFF. Then we have college football week 11 key games. We'll break those down. Obviously, we're going to be breaking this all down throughout the rest of the week too, but just kicking it off today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's bet it, presented by Superbook Sports. Line moves. Let's start out with the Falcons taking on the Panthers. That total moved from 41 to 44.5. Cordell Patterson returned this past week. He did really well. What other significant things are happening in this matchup to move that total up 3.5 points?
Yeah, I saw a lot of actual movement here. It's crazy. We saw some initial line moves to the under, and then the over kind of got steamed up. This line's been all over the place. And really the question is, do you feel that PJ Walker's that guy? Sam Darnold gets activated this week. We'll see on a short week if he gets any reps. But it's funny because when I was looking at the chart, so, I look at these charts, quarterback performance charts. PJ Walker was so bad last week that it actually made Malik Willis and Sam Ehlinger look good on the chart. All the quarterbacks were kind of in the middle on the chart, and then Ehlinger and Willis were kind of on the bottom scale. PJ Walker was in his own stratosphere. That's how bad he was last week. Now, he's at home. He's facing a Falcons defense that maybe if you did the same chart for defensive efficiency, the Falcons would kind of be in their own zip code. So I think it's hard to lay on the road with the Falcons. But that being said, again, the quarterback situation for Carolina, the most important position on the field, very much in flux. I think this game is a stone cold pass for me, frankly. Sadly, because it's Thursday, standalone, but not really vibing it.
I'm rooting for the Falcons just because I'm here in Atlanta, but I don't think I'm going to put any money on that game. That's definitely for sure. Let's take it out to Las Vegas. You're dwelling at this point where they're taking on the Colts coming into town. The Raiders, after a few horrible weeks and an absolutely horrible season so far, are now 6.5-point favorites over the Indianapolis Colts. And a lot of that has to do, obviously, with the firing of Frank Reich, the hiring of Jeff Saturday on Monday. Jeff Saturday on a Monday. But you look at a guy like this. You love to see it. But you look at a guy like this, he's not qualified. Great broadcaster. I love watching Get Up every morning, but now he has to get up and coach an NFL team. Is something he's never done before. I'm interested to see how this plays out. Is there any other reason besides the fact that Jeff Saturday is not necessarily a qualified head NFL football coach that the Raiders are now a touchdown favorite over the Indianapolis Colts?
You're on a freaking roll today.
I know.
So
I'm sick. I'm drinking my electrolytes, and I'm just feeling a little frisky.
You're sassy this morning. We got sassy Jabara on the stream today. This game, so I before a little peek behind the curtain here. Every Monday I get an email from our esteemed editor, Andrew Wilshire, and he asks me which games I want to write. I pick 3 games to write about for the Pickswise site every week, and I have to pick the games on Monday. Usually I pick the games based off of my line moves and buy low, sell high. And I did do that with a couple of them, but I picked this one to write about because it's like a War and Peace novel. Like there's so many twists and turns with what's going on with both of the teams. It's a fascinating game. So let's get into first just straight up line move. This was 3.5 last week. The Colts didn't play.
Wow.
They had a bye. Right? Excuse me. The Colts didn't play. They had a bye. The Raiders did play. And they were so freaking bad. The Colts played too. They played the Patriots. But the Raiders were so freaking bad that I was thinking to myself, there's no way that this line moves off of 3. It's going to either stay 3.5 or maybe back to 3. But the Colts were even worse. And then you hear the move on Monday, and this line move is absolutely fascinating. This thing moved 3 points toward the Raiders after they got shut out in the second half. And they looked absolutely lifeless. Now, the Colts are dead last in offensive efficiency since making the move from Ryan to Ellinger. So there's not a lot to go on there. You mentioned the Jeff Saturday news. I'll mention one more piece of news. So the offensive coordinator for this game, and I think for the rest of the season, is a man by the name of Parks Frazier. He is the Colts passing game specialist. He will be tasked with calling the plays this week for this game. This dude is 30 years old, and he's never had a role higher than an assistant at any job, college, pro, period. So there's just so much unknown with this game. I actually think the Colts might have some value at 6.5 if it gets to 7 because of the volatility involved in this game. We really have no idea what the Colts are going to do. Now, again, the numbers have been brutal, but Derek Carr had one of the worst second halves I've ever seen against a bad Jaguars defense. 12% success rate on dropbacks. I think Josh McDaniels is the next coach to get fired if they don't put a big number on the board this week. I think they could win the game, and he still might get fired if they don't look good doing it.
Yeah. I mean, after the Raiders were shut out, he had a closed-door meeting, remember, with the GM in Las Vegas. Who knows what happened there, but I know he got a little bit of a talking to, and then they came out and didn't play much better this past weekend. So this game is all eyes are going to be on this game, not because of how good both of these teams are, but because of how bad both of these teams are, and seeing who's going to be skidding more after week 10. But this is going to be an interesting one. Why not give a young guy an opportunity? Who knows? Maybe, I know not qualified necessarily, but some people could step up in these situations. They have one chance to show what they're able to do, and they're like coming out and giving it all. I also think that Get Up did a really good job covering the Jeff Saturday situation too, because obviously he's friends with those guys, right? But they did a really good job being unbiased, and that was nice to watch too. But going to be interesting to see how Jeff Saturday. I truly thought Matt Ryan was going to step in as the offensive coordinator and call plays at that point.
I wouldn't have minded
he has more
that.
play calling experience than anybody else on that staff right now, probably. So
I wouldn't have minded that at all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes moving forward. Last but not least, the Chargers taking on the 49ers. 49ers moving from 6 to now touchdown favorites. This is the largest underdog the Chargers have been all season long. Do the 49ers take advantage? And does a lot of this line move just have to do with how well they played last week and the Chargers kind of floundering a little bit?
Yeah, the one thing I'll mention, I wanted to mention one thing I had in my notes for Colts Raiders. The Colts are 8-1 of the under this year, and they're 0-9 against the number in the first half. Raiders' first half, based off of what we saw last week, might not be the worst bet, but we can revisit that at a later time. Colts Niners. So the Niners actually had a bye. I know I just messed up the Colts bye. The Colts did not have a bye last week. They played the Patriots. The Niners did have a bye last week.
Yeah.
And the Chargers, some would say they exceeded odds maker expectations. If you got that line early at 2.5, they won. They won down in Atlanta by a field goal. Most people pushed, but you could say that they exceeded odds maker expectations, albeit very slightly. But here's the part about the Chargers that concerns me with this game. And I think this is why the line has moved all the way up to a key number of 7. By the way, this line was -3.5 last week. And like I said, the Niners didn't play. So it's not like they blew somebody out and then all of a sudden you're like, well, the Niners are back. The Chargers won and covered some numbers. But this line reopened 6.5 and jumped to 7. And I think the reason why is the Chargers' offensive line. They only had a 29% success rate on running plays against the Falcons. Way too much pressure on Justin Herbert. And this Chargers' offensive line for the season dead last in run block win rate. If they can't block the Falcons' defensive line, how are they going to block the Niners' defensive line, which is arguably the best in football, one of? And the secondary getting healthier. I see a lot of problems for the Chargers moving the football, sustained offense in this game. And I think the Niners, they might get Elijah Mitchell back. We know about Christian McCaffrey, another week of Shanahan and CMC figuring out ways to make this offense fun. Now, that doesn't mean go run to the window and lay 7 with the Niners, because clearly that's a bad bet based off of the market. But there's a lot of really smart people that have really pushed this line up to a pretty significant margin based off of the priors from last week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that game is moving forward, too. The 49ers seem to be finding their stride at this point. Christian McCaffrey definitely finding his stride with the team. We saw that back in week 8, I think it was, when their whole offense is pushing together. Now they had a bye. Now they're coming off. They're going to be rested. They're going to be ready to go, going up against the Chargers. Battle of Cali. Cannot even wait. Let's head to college football for a second before we bring in Arthur Arkush. Week 11 key games. We're getting down to the end of the season, the nitty gritty. Things are really starting to come together. Last week, obviously, we had some extremely exciting games. My Wolverines decided to play with their food before finishing it off. Georgia did not play around at all, and they absolutely crushed Tennessee at that point. This week, they're moving on to Mississippi State, and this could actually be a little bit of a tough spot for them. I know they're laying 16.5 points in a game like this. The total is set at 53.5, cross-division SEC matchup. But I know Mississippi State, they took down Auburn in overtime. Could this be a letdown spot, though, for Georgia, coming off of such a massive win? Now they're ranked number 1. Or do they still take advantage? They're more than 2 touchdown favorites here.
Could be. If I recall, that game was last week. Mississippi State almost got beat by Auburn. So you could absolutely say that the Bulldogs were looking ahead to this game. Georgia, listen, the College Football Playoff Committee is not messing around this year. I honestly believe that Georgia's the best team in the country. And I don't see them tripping up in any capacity besides maybe when we get to the SEC championship game. I'm not saying that they're going to cover this number, which is a hefty number on the road in the SEC. The numbers that I'm looking at right here. So, again, another peek behind the curtain. I compile a lot of rating systems for college football, and it's been a pretty helpful process for me over the last few weeks. This week, the ratings say Georgia minus 15.9. So the line's pretty spot on there at 16.5. I probably would not bet this game. I would pass. I think Georgia's probably going to win, and maybe they cover, maybe they don't. But I would be surprised if Georgia trips up against Mississippi State.
Let's take it out west. Pac-12 rivals in Eugene, Oregon. Washington taking on Oregon. Oregon here just under 2 touchdown favorites. That total, wild, is set at 72 and a half. That's ridiculous. A lot of points. The Ducks have won 8 straight, though, since their home opener in Atlanta. They scored 40 points in each game since then. And Washington is back in the AP rankings after beating Oregon State. They won their last 3 games, and they could still make a run at the league title at this point. 72.5, though. You taking the chance and taking the over?
Absolutely not. So let me look at the one. This is an under game. Now, do you feel good about betting the under? No. I'm already sweating just thinking about betting the under in this game. But there's no way you can bet over 73. That is just a bet I cannot make. My numbers have this Oregon minus 10.6. So you could argue there's a little value on Washington. We faded Oregon last week against Colorado. We were looking okay at the half. Colorado is just awful. Washington has a pulse. I think they'll be able to move it a little bit. Oregon's kind of due for a stinker. But that being said, I really like Dan Lanning as a coach. Now listen, Oregon's had one bad performance all season. And you could argue, let's throw it out because it was on the road, essentially, in Atlanta against the number 1 team in the country and Dan Lanning's first game against his former boss, Kirby Smart. So you can make a case that game deserves to be eliminated from your priors. And we judge Oregon based off of the 8 games since. And they've looked fantastic in basically every game. So I think it's a tough sell to fade Oregon, but the numbers say there's a little value on Washington here. And obviously, just do not bet the over, guys. There's better bets on the board this week than betting over 73 in a football game.
Maybe I'll take the over just to take the contrarian play, Jared. That's a really, really high total. I mean, why not?
It's really
points,
even
points,
for
points.
you, that's high. You've never been that
honestly,
high in your life.
That's a little bit too much of a gamble for me at that point. Let's take it, though, from boys to men, college football to NFL, bringing Arthur Arkush, betting editor for PFF. We're breaking down the NFC North and the rest of the Week 9 NFL season heading into Week 10. Arthur, how are you? Happy Wednesday.
I'm doing great. Good morning to you. Show, how we doing?
We're doing well. Halfway through the NFL season, it's pretty crazy to think that we're already here. And we're starting to see some of these teams that were really good at the beginning of the season level out a little bit more. They were really bad, maybe making a comeback. Let's talk about the Vikings, though, because right now they're sitting at the top of the NFC North. Really good bet if someone bet on them to win the division at the beginning of the season at like plus 650. How far can this Vikings team go in the playoffs?
Yeah, obviously a great start there for a rookie head coach and an offense that had a ton of continuity coming into this season, but a lot of turnover on defense. So it's gone really well. Obviously, the conference and the division are both down. So if you're holding that NFC North champion Vikings ticket, you're feeling amazing about it at this point. But as you guys both know, it's going to be a totally different animal once we get to the playoffs. PFF has very similar percentages right now. The Vikings to win the conference championship right now at, let's see here, 17% probability, just 1% above the Cowboys. Actually, 2 points up. I'm saying at 15%. But the Eagles, of course, the heavy odds-on favorite. We have a % probability for Philadelphia to still win the conference championship. So we'll see. I think the story with Minnesota is that is good as it's been so we need to see them beat someone. Their only good-looking win right now is Dolphins, who were without Tua. So don't want to take it away from this great 6-game winning streak they're on, but a bigger test could come Sunday, of course, in the form of the Bills. Granted, we don't know about Josh Allen's elbow, so that signature game the Vikings still seek may have to wait.
Yeah, the market's telling us Josh Allen's not going to play this week. That line hopped down to 4 today. Now we'll see if it's cold feet for Josh, just setting the water a little bit. But I don't really like betting on games where the quarterback situation, especially a guy like Josh Allen, is so much in flux. So I think for me, Arthur, that game is a pass. One game that actually might make my card this week, and I'm curious your take on Justin Fields, because the numbers are telling us top 10 in EPA plus CPOE over the last 3 weeks. And this is a Bears offense that looks to be pretty good. And those 3 games that we're talking about, where Justin Fields is grading out as a top 10 quarterback against the Patriots, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins. I mean, I would say those 3 teams have a pulse, especially defensively. What are you seeing from Justin Fields in this Bears offense? They're only a 2.5-point favorite at home this week, maybe a letdown spot for the Lions after their big win over the Bears. It seems like this game total-wise has ticked up as well. Maybe Chicago in the over is worth a look.
Yeah, we'll see. I am certainly buying into the recent improvements in Justin Fields. I don't know how anyone couldn't be. I know, as fans, our instinct is to make these grand proclamations, and everyone wants to say, okay, Justin Fields is clearly the future because the past went well. I don't want to go there. I enjoy it in the he's playing ball. The coaches are finally building game around it. Saw that coming out of the mini bye, but put one on the Patriots in prime time after that Washington disaster where they couldn't get the ball in despite 3 goal-to-go situations. So I think it's been really a collaborative effort between Luke Getsy and this new coaching staff, the way they are unlocking Justin Fields with his legs. You are seeing very clearly there's a direct relationship to the way his confidence as a throw. I mean, he's been a lot more accurate, as you mentioned. He's making better decisions. So it has all certainly clicked of late. Everyone knows the Bears recent history versus the Lions has been very positive. Detroit really bad on defense right now. So if it's a half, I haven't looked. Last time I checked, I thought it was 3 points. But at 2.5 inside that number, I think the Bears might have some allure here. And I'm also on the over. I haven't placed the bet yet, but I think that's definitely attractive because you look at how horrible the Lions have been playing defensively, at least prior to last week. And obviously that win was fueled by the Aaron Rodgers interceptions. But the Bears were just traded Roquan Smith. Robert Quinn wasn't providing as much, but clearly they are not as concerned about playing great defense this season. So I think this could be a potential blow-up spot between these two teams. And I'll just say I'm enjoying as a fan watching Justin Fields. I wish we could just slow our roll a little bit and just try and enjoy it in the present and not get too carried away.
Yeah, the Bears definitely are looking to unleash Justin Fields, and they figured out a way to do it. I think we're going to have you reset your connection for a second, Arthur, just because it's a little choppy, and we want to get all of the answers out of you. So reset. We're going to talk about the Packers in a second, but I will say my Detroit Lions, absolutely incredible this past weekend against the Packers. We haven't beat them in so long, and it was so nice to see my Detroit Lions finally get a win over the team that usually is sitting at the top of the NFC North. Thank you.
It's the Super Bowl.
Thank you.
It's the Super Bowl.
I know. And Aiden Hutchinson,
are they going to have a parade?
University of Michigan picks off Aaron Rodgers, and he was asked post game how that felt.
That was
awesome. So good for him. A Michigan kid being able to pick off Aaron Rodgers, probably watching the Lions growing up his entire life. That's great. Okay, let's bring Arthur back in because I want to ask about the Packers and their absolutely horrible season. I know I went on a rant, Jared and Arthur, letting you know about the Green Bay Packers, about their O-line. Since week one, I've just not been on the Packers. I am a Lions fan, so I was really excited about this past week. But they just can't figure it out right now. They're not a good team. They were overrated at the beginning of the season. Everyone was like, yeah, they're going to figure it out. They're going to get it going. It's Aaron Rodgers, blah, 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 blah. Will the Packers ever regain their form? Because right now, they are looking really, really stinky.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening for this regime and really this Aaron Rodgers era at this point, guys. I mean, we all, suffice to say, I shouldn't say we all, but I think most of us kind of underestimated the impact of losing a Devontae Adams. That is pretty clear at this point. Remember, they also lost Marquez Valdez-Scantling. There were a lot of other changes in that passing game, and the Packers just assumed Aaron Rodgers could just kind of pick up where he usually leaves off. That hasn't been the case at all. We are seeing Aaron protecting him more, even at the expense of first downs. You look at the numbers, he's throwing short of the sticks. He's getting rid of the football sooner to avoid getting hit. You're seeing similar things with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, and these are kind of some of the metrics that we look at, time to throw, where they're throwing relative to the chains. Mm-hmm. These are signs, I think, of older quarterbacks who might be kind of losing a little bit of that juice. So what's really fascinating about the Packers, let me just check here. We've got them with only a 13% chance, PFF does, at this point of making the playoffs. So this thing is about out of steam already. And this is where it gets really interesting or really ugly, depending on how you look at it. Remember, guys, Jordan Love still sitting there in the shadows. They have to decide on his fifth-year option this spring. So if the Packers are getting ready to turn the page on the Aaron Rodgers era, they need to at least know what they're going to do next. Obviously, they could be in like a top 5 position in what looks like a great quarterback draft, but they probably have to see what they have in Jordan Love in more game situations here sooner than later. I don't know how much that's being discussed yet in Green Bay, but now they'll welcome the Cowboys. Cowboys, I believe, laying 5.5 Sunday. By the way, this is the only bet I have already in the NFC North. I was able to get a point of CLV. It opened at 4.5, so I do like the Cowboys in this one. But to answer your question, I know it's kind of a roundabout way. I don't think it's getting solved in the short term, and I don't even know how much longer we're going to see Aaron Rodgers, because I think this organization may have to turn to Jordan Love soon.
Wow.
Arthur, quick follow-up. The playoff number that you have on Green Bay, what was it again to make the playoffs?
I believe it was 13% we have in our power rankings at Pro Football Focus.
You're being even kinder than the market, which says minus 900 right now, which is a 90% implied odds that the Packers will miss the playoffs. The follow-up that I have for you is on the other side of the ball. We thought year 2 of this defensive scheme for the Packers would see some improvements. We know the personnel is there. They're grading out as like a bottom 10 team across the board on the defensive side of the ball. So say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, and all of the critique is valid, but it's a team effort right now for Green Bay, and I think both sides of the ball need some kind of renovation.
It's a great point, Jared. I think some might even argue that the Packers defense has been more disappointing than the offense in light of what it has, elite personnel. Now, granted, that could change as of this week. Of course, Rashawn Gary, his season is over. That's a huge blow. He's a guy we don't talk about as much as we probably should relative to his production on the field. Now, Eric Stokes, their former first-round corner, also banged up. So, it's looked really discombobulated. The coaches have looked overmatched at times. I think this is probably reflective of how great quarterbacks kind of prop up everyone around them, from talent to coaching. So, I don't think that we're probably ready to talk about any type of house cleaning in Green Bay, given Matt LaFleur's recent success. But like you said, maybe change is coming on the defensive side of the football. They can't even get some of their young, talented guys on the field despite not playing well. So, in a tough spot, obviously the Cowboys getting healthier here, and I think are going to have a real chance to be successful through the air. If the Packers are down Eric Stokes, they're down their best pass rusher. So again, that number opened at only 4.5. It's up to 5.5 now, but still inside that key number. I still think there's some value on the Cowboys headed into Lambeau.
Absolutely. It is crazy how that game's going to be. I really do think that game, the Cowboys are going to blow them out, to be honest with you. Micah Parsons is that dude. Their offense is playing like that dude right now. It's going to be interesting to see halfway through the season, Arthur. So appreciate you coming on, talking to us about your knowledge, especially of the NFC North, and we'll be chatting with you soon.
Pleasure is all mine. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of the week. I hope we can do it again soon.
Great job.
Hey, you too. Arthur Arkush, betting editor for PFF. Quickly, Jared, before we get into our play of the days, let's talk about TCU and Texas. Get back to some college football. TCU, now one of the only 4 remaining undefeated teams, and finally the AP poll gave them the respect that they deserve. They're ranked in the top 4 of the AP poll right now. They're laying 7 points against Texas this week. That total is also pretty high, 64.5. Battle of the Lone Star State. Who comes out on top?
Yeah, the committee finally giving the TCU Longhorns their due. Probably a kiss of death, right? Don't you kiss a frog and they hope it turns into a prince? What do you do if the frog has horns? The frog has horns.
I don't know.
It's literally, I know there's some kind of, fairy tale out there for kissing frogs turning into prince. This frog might turn into an uglier frog if it already got kissed. It's in the top 4. All the TCU fans, everyone was like, "Oh, we're not in the top 4. We're not in the top 4." You're in the top 4. Now go prove that you belong there. That's the key. Now, TCU's had one heck of a year. Take nothing away from this TCU team, but I watched that entire game against Texas Tech last week. I watched the entire game against West Virginia 2 weeks ago because I had money on both games, of course, against TCU, and they covered both. I don't see it with TCU, guys. I think we're going to see a massive slip up at some point, and they are going to get absolutely blasted. Is it this week? It might be. Texas is favored by a full touchdown against mighty TCU. Yeah, I don't see it, guys. I really do not see the win for TCU this week. It might be one of the biggest underdog picks of the week. You're going to see TCU with a 4 next to their name and a +7 on the odds. And you're going to see Texas, which, is a very popular team, no doubt. And this is going to be a very exciting game, no doubt. But anytime the lower seeded team is favored by this much, you have to ask yourself why. Why is the market giving Texas this much love? Texas, to me, is a top 10 team. Texas, to me, is the team that really, if they would have had a couple of moments against Alabama go differently, maybe Texas is the team in the top 4 right now. So I just do not fall in love with this Horned Frogs team. Do not kiss the frog this week. I'm not saying Texas is definitely going to cover this line. I think the line is fair, but I think Texas is going to win this game. We'll see how much they win it by.
Yeah.
But I think Texas wins this game.
This is similar to last week, obviously, when the number one Tennessee Vols were ranked, or they were 8.5-point underdogs at a certain point to Georgia. This is a similar spot that we're seeing. Texas has won 4 of their last 5. They had a 7-point loss to Oklahoma State, which was, not very good, but they're coming off a win against a ranked Kansas State team, number 2 in the Big 12 right now. Going to be interesting to see if they show up and show out. TCU is the last undefeated team. They're not ranked 4th. They played a lot of really close games, though, and that could bite them in the butt here. I'm not betting this game, but I am really interested to watch it and see how it plays out. Lone Star State battle. We'll see how it goes. We'll talk about it more throughout the week, too, heading into Saturday. Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. This season, we are rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total. And if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you, my friends, get a $50 bonus. Make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Now let's head to Pickswise.com for our 3-star play of the day. Who do we got today, Gerard?
Got a few for you. Actually, I guess Wednesday. Wait, yeah, today's Wednesday. Wednesday is Totals Day. It is Wednesday. Good call. I don't even know what day it is anymore, frankly. It's not a football day or not an NFL football day. That much I know. It's like the week gets split up into days where the NFL is playing and days where the NFL is not playing. Those are the only 2 types of days there are, really, in this current season we're in. Today is a non-NFL day, so there's a lot of non-NFL 3-stars on the site, including 4, count them, 4 NBA totals. I don't even want to give you the games because it's basically everyone. There's also one NBA side on the site and college basketball also. 3-star on the site today. Matt Markart's got a Bellarmine Louisville game. I'll give you $100 if you can tell me where Bellarmine is.
Actually, I could not even guess. Maryland?
I think it's somewhere in the state of Kentucky because they're playing Louisville tonight.
Okay.
Just a guess.
Let's see. Bellarmine.
I mean, that makes sense, right? Usually
Louisville,
they play
Kentucky.
each other.
It's in Louisville, Kentucky.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They're playing Louisville tonight. It's a rivalry. Absolutely. I wonder if anyone in the chat knew where Bellarmine was. Think anyone in the chat knew where Bellarmine was? I doubt it.
Probably not. I mean, maybe a couple people if they went there. Who knows? Let's get into our best bets of the day, though. Who do you got today? You're looking at BG.
Yeah, we got Maction for a second straight night. Our pals over at Ball State, better known as Testicle Tech, covered for us last night in Maction. So we're going back to the Maction well tonight. Bowling Green plus 2.5. So with a win tonight, Bowling Green can get bowl eligible for the first time since 2015. Long time. And the basics here, the meat and potatoes of this handicap all lines up for the Falcons. Net yards per play, Bowling Green's a positive, Kent State's a negative. Schedule adjusted defensive efficiency, Bowling Green's about 25 spots higher than Kent State. Both teams are pretty crappy in that category. Bowling Green 94th, but Kent State 117th. Falcons playing pretty well. They've won 3 in a row. Defense playing well. 5 yards per play allowed, 13.3 points per game during that little 3-game winning streak. They've got a senior quarterback playing on senior night. Shout out Matt McDonald. Enjoy senior night, sir. And the Golden Flashes this year, 0-5 on the road. They've lost 3 of 4 games overall. Their only win in that stretch is against Akron. And in that 4-game stretch, they're allowing at least 27 points. The only thing that scares me here is Kent State is on 6 losses, which means if they lose, they're out of the bowl picture. So we might get a really good effort from Kent State tonight. And the market's a little confusing here because, again, when I look at a lot of these numbers, I think Bowling Green maybe should be favored. They're also at home. It's a little fishy. But the numbers say Bowling Green probably should be closer to a pick'em, if not slightly favored. And I will trust the numbers. So we will take 2.5 points. Obviously, I wish we had the 3, but that number got bought down pretty early in the week. I will take 2.5 points with Bowling Green, and we will go for a second consecutive match and win. Good luck.
Big Mac in the Maction on a Wednesday. I'm taking it to the ice for mine. The Hurricanes taking on the Panthers, and I like the over 6.5, the total. The Canes coming off of a 3-1 loss at home on Sunday. That snapped a 4-game win streak for them, and that one goal was their lowest scoring game of the entire season so far. Now, the Panthers just ended a 4-game West Coast road trip with a win in Anaheim. They finished 2-2 on the road trip. They're going to want to get things going back at home. They've scored 4 more goals in each of the last 3 games, and they're sitting at 40 plus shots on goal per game this season, which is first in the NFL. So they're absolutely peppering the other team's goaltender. This is why I like the over. The Panthers are averaging just about 3.2, a little over that goals per game, while the Canes are averaging 3.1 goals per game. I know if you add those together, it sits a little bit under 6.5, but you look at Bobrovsky, I know he's going to want to bounce back, but if he's being peppered that much with that many shots, he's going to, I feel like, let a few in. And same on the other side with Frederik Andersen after allowing 3 goals in their last game. I feel like both offenses just usually get hot when they play each other. This matchup has a tendency to go over. 7 of the last 10 games between the two have produced at least 6 goals. I just feel like it's going to be another shootout, high-scoring game between the Canes and the Panthers. I'm taking the over 6.5 and -110. That's it for us today, guys. Find us at the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Lauren Jabara. This is Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.